From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log, and our final review of the 2024 Democratic National Convention from Chicago. I'm watching it on television along with you. The difference is I'm watching everything. Most people aren't. I'm doing this for you. I'm taking the feed without all the commentary from the talking heads. Just the straight feed for the full 5-6 hours or whatever it is every night to report back to you. All right. Okay. So here we go. Before we get into the main event here, I'd like to read something to you that I wrote earlier today and posted on my sites regarding the reaction to Gus Walz, the son of Tim Walz, and his behavior at the convention on Wednesday night. He was very excited and very emotional about his dad's, during his dad's acceptance speech. And Ann Coulter and others on the right posted some pretty horrible things, attacking the teenage Walz. And I just was annoyed by that. And I wrote this, and I just want to share it with you. And then we'll get on with the business of the night. I feel genuinely sorry for Ann Coulter, who attacked Gus Walz for openly showing love and emotion during his dad's acceptance speech on Wednesday night, and for others on the right who attacked Gus's family for accepting and embracing him fully. I feel sorry for these people because in the worst sense of the word, they are disabled. They have a sickness. They are lacking in empathy. They are soulless, cruel, sociopathic mutants. For some sad, cruel trick of nature, they were born without the natural equilibrium that most of us have to balance our good and bad natures. We all have our faults. We can be mean or unkind at times. We can fall short of our ideals. But Coulter and company, who, by the way, sang the praises of then-teenager Kyle Rittenhouse, display a decidedly deviant behavior that is uniquely sad. To attack a loving, joyous, emotional teenage boy in the most vile of terms, I won't repeat them here, let alone to do it publicly, displays a severe and debilitating illness. Some of the attackers used the excuse that they did not know that teenager Gus Walz is neurodivergent, a so-called special needs student. Both of these indicators are wide-ranging umbrella terms. We don't know anything about Gus Walz's place on the spectrum, a spectrum where each and every one of us has our own unique place. Let's be clear. Wherever Gus is on the spectrum we all inhabit makes a difference of exactly zero. To attack a teenage boy, any teenage boy, for becoming emotional and openly expressing love for his dad is depraved. I do not know exactly where Gus is on the neurotypical bell curve, and it's none of my business. But I do know, by their own public statements, that Ann Coulter and her fellow right-wing tweeters are the ones who are anything but typical. They are devoid of empathy. Their cruelty borders on sociopathic. Their social media posts are decidedly anti-social. They are sick, and I feel sorry for them. So that's what I posted earlier today. And I just wanted to share it with you. Okay, a quick rundown of this evening's activities. Let's just go through my notes here. Well, first of all, uncommitted delegates, it's all over now, and the uncommitted delegates never got to speak, and that's a shame. They were fighting for that. They were fighting, behind closed doors and within the halls of the United Center and conference rooms with the party leaders. They wanted a speaker. That's all they were just asking. We want a speaker on the main stage. Give us a speaker. They didn't do it. They didn't get it. I guess the party leaders were afraid of what the speakers would say. on the issue of Gaza, because that's what the uncommitted delegates, of course, are all about. So that's too bad. I don't know what else to say. It's the world we live in. It was their party to throw, and you weren't invited up on stage. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not happy with it either. I mean, I understand from their point of view why they were afraid to do that. But, it's a convention. It's an infomercial. It's selling a very important product, and they have to control what goes up on that stage, and they were afraid they couldn't control you. I was kind of surprised they let Bernie up there. But, Bernie's a very practical guy. He knows how to play ball with these people. That's been kind of the theme of our week, how those on the left, the degree to which they can or cannot work with party leadership to get things done. So, uncommitted delegates, I'm with you. But I understand. I know it's hard. Palestinians are dying under U.S. sanction, and to see everybody just dancing and partying and laughing, it's painful. It's tragic. But we also have to defeat fascism here at home, and I guess they believe, and maybe they're right, you do have to put on this great infomercial, and you do have to party and dance and be full of joy in order to defeat fascism here at home. It's like you and I talked about recently, the very definition of tragedy in the Greek classical sense is when two noble causes are at odds. And your cause is absolutely righteous and noble to demand ceasefire and justice for the Palestinians. Of course it is, to the highest order. It's also a noble cause to defeat fascism here on our shores. Two noble causes, and the advocates for each can't get together. That's the tragedy of it. So there we are. It didn't happen. You didn't get your speaking slot at the convention. I'm sorry. But, I honor you. I voted. I'm with you. I voted for you. I voted uncommitted in Wisconsin in the Democratic primaries for this very reason. I absolutely could not cast a vote for Joe Biden in the Democratic primary, given what was going on in Gaza. So I'm with you. All right. I'm going to start with just mercy, the music. Speaking of dancing, good Lord, the music of this convention, I've never heard anything like it. It was just fantastic all week. Because the artist granted the rights, right? You gotta have the artist's permission to do all this, and all the great artists of America are more than happy to align with this party versus the Orange Menace. They've got Lee Greenwood and Kid Rock, and that's where the roster ends, I think. I don't think, they found some garage cover band to play at their convention. Oh, Lord. But yeah, whenever they play music, they get cease and desist letters from the artists, as opposed to, Neil Young, for example. His, what was it that closed the night? Keep on rocking in the free world. Yeah, that's right. That ended the night with for the Big Waltz nomination acceptance speech. But yeah, and tonight, man, that DJ was just doing it. Taylor Swift's "Shake It Off" got a prominent spot, and again, that's why I always watch the feed. I can't stand having all these talking heads yapping at each other while things are happening on the floor. Even if it's music, it's just show me what's going on. So yeah, I liked the straight feed. Yeah, poor Taylor Swift. I don't usually say great things about Taylor Swift. I think she's kind of a mediocre musician, but we won't get into that. She's undeniably a huge pop star, and it's too bad she can't endorse a candidate of her choice. The AP published a statement from her, and I'll read it quickly. This is Taylor Swift, quote, "Let me be very clear. I am not going to speak about something publicly if I think doing so might provoke those who would want to harm the fans who come to my shows. And of course, in Europe, they had to cancel a couple of shows because of some terrorist threats. And this is a perfectly reasonable position to have. I commend Taylor Swift for taking this position. I'm not going to speak if it will hurt my fans, if it will endanger them. Of course, good for you. My problem here is not with Taylor Swift. It's with just the shape of the world we're in. My God. When a person can't speak their mind, when they can't openly endorse a candidate for fear of being attacked or killed, or for fear of your fans being attacked or killed, this is the world we live in. This is the fascist world we live in. Yeah, it's just a damn shame. But, you can grant rights at least. We can go that far. So, yeah, the music of this convention was just quite good. Of course, Beyonce's Freedom has been the theme song all week. Also heard Texas Hold'em tonight, played during a break just before the primetime hour. And then what's become Tim Walz's theme, John Mellencamp's Small Town. I was born in a small town. They followed that with Springsteen's We Take Care of Our Own. Wherever this flag's flown, we take care of our own. And Born in the USA. Again, the Republicans always try to use these songs. They've tried to use Born in the USA, and they have. But yeah, then they get sued, and they get these cease and desist letters. And then after the DJ stopped, the band took over with James Brown's Living in America. Take us right into the 8 o'clock hour. I mean, it was really something. I know I'm going on too long about the music, but, God bless America. The Chicks sang the national anthem in beautiful 3-part harmony, followed by chants of USA, USA. See, this is the remarkable thing. I've been watching conventions since 1964. I got an early start. I was big into politics even when I was a little boy. And I have never seen the Democrats be able to, chant USA, USA, and, small town values. They've taken all this stuff back, right? The flag itself is very prominent tonight, and the theme of freedom and patriotism. And over the years, the Republicans have just stolen all that. Of all the conventions I've seen, I've never seen one where the Democrats so successfully kind of wrestled back all of these themes. It's quite something. All right, let me look through my notes here. Elizabeth Warren, I mentioned her here because two things. She had like a 2-minute ovation. The people in the hall just love Elizabeth Warren. She was really surprised by it, and it made her cry. I saw her wiping away some tears. It's like, wow, they really love Elizabeth Warren. And then she did what you'd expect. She made a decent 5-minute speech or so. But she did it at one point, talking about Trump and Vance, she said, I wouldn't trust those guys to move my couch. She made a couch joke. Elizabeth Warren made a couch joke. They followed the same format as they've had for the last 4 nights, and that's a lot of quick hits, short videos, films, short little 1-minute, 2-minute, 3-minute speeches. Deb Haaland, Secretary of Interior, came on after a nice little video on the climate crisis. So lots of quick hits. Again, looking for viral moments. They know people aren't sitting down for 5-6 hours at a time to watch this thing, so they just throw lots of darts and see what goes viral. And, that's the way you do it these days, so that's fine. Maxwell Frost, a very young member, the youngest member of Congress currently, and maybe ever, from Florida, made a nice little speech. Climate crisis is here now, and as a Florida man, he understands that. I was confused for a couple minutes because during this section, I thought they were going back and forth between climate and labor because they had a couple things on labor too, but then I realized they were marrying the two. This is something capital D Democrats want to do. They never want to talk about climate crisis without talking about the economy and jobs. They want those two to be inextricably woven. And that's their strategy. Fine. I mean, I get it. I understand. But yeah, Maxwell Frost gave this really fiery speech and really well done. I had the thought that maybe politics is going to go the way of the NBA. At some point here in the future, it's going to be mostly black folks doing politics because they just do it better. You know, Raphael Warnock, and now we got Maxwell Frost. This young guy is going to be with us now for another 50 years. Who knows where he'll wind up? But yeah, is politics going to be the NBA? Is it going to be mostly black guys? Oh, and women, of course, in this case. Oh, speaking of the NBA, then the very next video message was from Steph Curry after Maxwell Frost. So he made a little appearance. Side note, I saw a fact checker interviewed on PBS somewhere, and they confirmed what we already know. The Democrats, they were fact checking some of the Democratic statements over the last few days, and they found the usual sort of, maybe a little exaggeration here, some fudging here. It's what we're used to over, like I said, watching these things since 1964. It's just what everybody does all the time. Nothing unusual. Some things to correct, sure. But compared to the RNC, which the host asked, well, that was just a 4-day fire hose of constant full-on lying. They couldn't even keep up. That's not a quote. Those are my own words. But that's basically what they said. They couldn't even keep up with all the lies at the RNC. So there's no comparison to be made at all. Colin Allred got a spot because he's running against Ted Cruz for the Senate in Texas. That's something that obviously the conventions do, or at least they used to do, and this one does. The RNC was weird. It was just so bizarre in so many ways. You'd have Trump's golf club manager up there to tell everybody how wonderful he is. What a great boss he is. Or his personal lawyer. Just the strangest, Tucker Carlson, the strangest lineup of speakers. This is much more traditional. Say, okay, Colin Allred, you're a representative from Texas. You're running for the Senate against Ted Cruz. Let's give you 5 minutes. Well, of course. Of course. And he's moved. It's tough to beat Ted Cruz. I don't know why, but it is. It's tough to beat Ted Cruz in Texas. Allred was down by 10 just a few days ago, and now he's down by 2. Within just the last couple of weeks, with this Harris phenomenon, he's cut 8 points off of Cruz's lead. So, God, anything could happen at this point. Lots of regular people, either on film or on the stage. Again, they continue to bounce around with quick speeches and quick videos, changing topics. That's the way they do it. Lots and lots of DJ music building up to the 8 o'clock hour, which I've already described. That was quite a show. It really was. So now we're in the 8 o'clock hour Central Time. Some TV stars that I don't know. One of them is named Kerry Washington. I am familiar with that name. I guess she's a very big star. I don't know television stars. And that's not to be, I don't mean to be snobby when I say that. Oh, I don't watch television. No, not at all. I just don't know contemporary television stars. I know TV stars from old reruns. I watch TV, but I watch comfort television. I watch old reruns, sports, and news. That's pretty much it. I don't watch anything contemporary because I can't stand contemporary television. I don't know if that's a confession or what it is. But anyway, Kerry Washington, who apparently is a very famous person, kind of hosted the first section there of the 8 o'clock hour. And she brought on one of her co-stars. I have no idea who he was, but the whole crowd seemed to know who he was because he walked on stage and they all cheered. I went, okay, who's this guy? D.L. Hughley came on with some jokes. I'm thinking, what's going on? We're well into the 8 o'clock hour and it's nothing but Hollywood people. But then they bring on a county sheriff to talk about safety. Then there's some survivors of Sandy Hook and other gunshot victims. Again, very strong, regular people kind of stuff. By the way, this is a good opportunity for another comparison. The Republicans at the MAGA convention, they had regular people also telling just horrible tear-jerking stories about family members who died from fentanyl or from, their families were murder victims. And, it was horrible, genuinely terrible. You can't criticize these people. They're regular folks going through terrible pain. The criticism here is for the Republican Party exploiting these people and trying to connect fentanyl deaths with some fantasy nightmare they've invented about immigrant crime and drugs pouring over the border, which we know that just isn't true. There aren't illegal drugs coming over the border carried by illegal immigrants. That's not a thing. Okay? If you have any doubt about this, let's be clear. Illegal immigrants, undocumented asylum seekers trying to cross the border are not bringing in illicit fentanyl or any other kinds of drugs. The drugs are coming in other ways. They're coming through airports. They're coming through legal ports. We talked about this. There is no connection between the so-called border crisis and the so-called invasion at the southern border and drugs in this country. The cartels are way smarter than that. They're not putting drugs in the pockets of mothers and babies. So that's just a big freaking lie. So their connection of and their exploitation of putting on these poor, tear-filled family members about victims of fentanyl and then trying to tie that to the southern border is just despicable and the worst kind of lie. And the same thing with crime. Just because a perpetrator of a crime happened to be an undocumented person doesn't then paint the entire southern border as a place where murderers are pouring over the border. Of course not. I mean, I could do that about any cohort of people. If a Catholic turns out to be a murderer, then I can paint all Catholics as murderers? Does that seem right to you? If a murderer is left-handed, I can disparage all left-handed people? If a murderer is a dentist, I have to say, watch out for dentists. No, but that's an exact parallel. That's an exact analogy. Just because someone happened to be an undocumented person who committed a crime doesn't mean that undocumented people commit crimes. Jeez, mercy, I try to impart basic freshman level logic on people. God, that pisses me off. As opposed to the regular people, survivors of Sandy Hook and other families of gunshot victims. That is a direct line. That is something that the American government, the federal government, can do something about. We can have basic gun safety laws, universal background checks, assault weapons ban, all things we know work, all things that most Americans take a poll. I think it's over 90% of people want universal background checks. So yeah, there are several basic gun safety laws that can be made and that are being advocated for by the Democratic Party at their Democratic convention, and having regular people shed tears about their victim family members is perfectly appropriate, and it's not exploitation, and it's completely oranges to apples regarding what the Republicans did at their convention. So let's be real clear about this. Do not both sides this on me. Do not give me that damn lazy both sides argument. The Republicans are lying. They're exploiting people. There's a huge difference. Whew, too excited. All right. Gabby Giffords made a nice appearance in the gun safety section. Of course, she's a victim herself of gun violence at her event where I think 6 people were killed and she was badly injured. Pink, speaking of music, she came on, did a just very nice little version of her, what's the name of the song? Oh, shoot. I'm blocking on, tell me, what's Pink's song? All of Us? What About Us? Is that it? Yeah, What About Us? Really great unplugged version, solo guitar, 4 singers, including one of the singers was her daughter. That was nice. That was kind of sweet. And I thought maybe, because in her first solo, each of the singers got a little bit of a solo. She gave her daughter a little solo, and it was during the lower register quiet part of the song. And you could tell she was a little bit nervous and didn't have all of her air. I thought, oh, I was really pulling for her. But then the second time she got a chance, it was after the song had picked up a little higher in range, a little bit an ability to really sing out. Ooh, kid's got a voice, nice voice, very nice voice. So I was happy about that. As a parent, I'm always really pulling for the kids. I noted the time, 8:40 Central Time. So on night 4, 8:40 p.m. Finally, for the first time all week that I can recall, a video of Kamala Harris on international issues and national security. That's the first time in all 4 nights. So we finally got to it. And then we spent a little while on international affairs and military. Mark Kelly comes out on Ukraine. Of course, he's a veteran and an astronaut. And that felt very old school, even almost out of place. It felt like we'd just gone back 10 or 20 years. And he talked about Kamala Harris on the Senate Intelligence Committee and the contrast with Trump. And then Leon Panetta comes out. And, he goes way back to the Clinton administration and held every position imaginable in national government, including defense secretary. So he's making this strong case for use of military and Harris's credentials. He had one really nice line regarding the contrast with the Orange Menace, who wants to literally attack Americans. He wants to use the military to attack Americans. He wanted to shoot protesters. Can't we just shoot? Well, if we can't shoot them, can we shoot them in the leg at least? Remember that? And he wants them to round up immigrants. So, yeah, Panetta had a nice little line on that. Good for him. Continuing with the whole veteran thing, Ruben Gallego came out, another U.S. rep running for Senate, this time against Kari Lake in Arizona. So he gets a nice little spot. And during his little talk, he brings out like 30 members of Congress who are all veterans. That was a nice moment. Gretchen Whitmer gets her turn. Adam Kinzinger gets a turn, of course, the Republican from the January 6th committee. I jotted down this quote: "Whatever issues we disagree on pale in comparison to the shared principles of upholding democracy." So he had a nice little talk, and it reminded me, he made lots of good arguments, the same arguments I've been making, because I want to bring my fellow lefties along. Whatever issues, lefties, that we disagree with the traditional centrist Democrats, they pale in comparison to the shared principles of upholding, well, he calls it democracy. I call it upholding the chance for democracy. Because I don't think we have one currently, but at least it upholds a chance for democracy. So, good for Adam Kinzinger. He's bringing his people. I use the same or similar arguments to bring my people, because I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a centrist. I'm not a corporate Democrat. Let's be real clear as I'm talking about their convention. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, God, if you haven't heard the $4 billion to $20 billion story yet, like turning, what's the Bible story about loaves of bread? There's one loaf of bread and he turns it into 100 or something. I don't know. But the $4 billion to $20 billion, when she was the Attorney General of California, there was this big settlement with the banks and how they ripped people off in the housing market. And the settlement was for $4 billion. And all the other AGs said, oh, that sounds pretty good. And Kamala Harris held out, and she wound up getting $20 billion for the people of California. And they love telling this story. So, yeah, it's the loaves and the fishes, basically. It's that story, Kamala Harris style. If you haven't heard it yet, I guarantee you're going to hear it in the next couple of months. She turned $4 billion into $20 billion when she was AG in California for the people who were screwed by the banks. It's a pretty good story. I don't blame him for pushing it. But then Roy Cooper, the reason I was kind of laughing, at the end of his speech, he did something terrible. It was a good idea. One by one, he asked the swing state delegations, one at a time, to stand up. And he's calling them out. Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and he names them all. But he forgot Pennsylvania. And then he gets to the number 6, Nevada. And everybody's up and cheering, and he walks off. And I'm thinking, wait, you forgot one, Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania, of all the swing states, all 7 swing states. That is the single most important swing state that you have to have. You just have to have Pennsylvania. And he forgot him. So if we lose Pennsylvania, blame Roy Cooper. Felt so bad. Felt so bad for the delegates sitting over there in the Pennsylvania section saying, "Aw, you forgot us." All right, so now we come to the big moment. There's a big film. Well, big, I don't know. It was a very nice film. That's something else they've done very well over the week. It's just an excellent production in every sense. Very nice film on Kamala Harris and her accomplishments. And now, about 9:30, boom, here she is, ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, the next president, very good, very good, very good, very good. Her address was very biographically heavy to start. Humble beginnings in an Oakland neighborhood. Her high school friend, Wanda, who was being sexually abused. So Kamala Harris insisted that Wanda come live with her and her mother and her sister. So great biographical stuff. The whole Kamala Harris for the people as she becomes, gets into law and becomes a prosecutor and then attorney general. And this whole, for the people thing. You know where that comes from, right? It's when she would prosecute a case, she would introduce herself to the court saying, Kamala Harris for the people. And that's the way she would always say it. And now it's become her slogan. And, it's good. It's great. It's great political rhetoric. It's great political poetry. It's, hats off. Good for her. And so then she kind of weaved that whole for the people and on behalf of so-and-so and on behalf of this group and on behalf of that group and on behalf of the people, I accept your nomination. Bang, bang, everybody's crazy. And it's quite a moment, right? I accept the nomination. And then I got a little concerned that maybe she peaked way too early because she's only about 15 minutes into her speech. And then she goes back and starts doing some contrast stuff between her and the Orange Menace. And it's okay. But, I was wondering maybe she should have saved that till the very end, maybe. Go back to the for the people thing and weave it into your I accept maybe at the end of the speech. So I'm second guessing her at this point. So it's a little bit low key for a little bit, but she kind of finds her way back. She got into her "we're not going back" thing, and everybody chanted that, and that breathes a little life back into the room. Then she makes another turn starts talking about the middle class and this whole opportunity economy where everyone has a chance to compete and the stuff that I'm always complaining about. As I've said probably every night we've been together this week, I don't want the opportunity to afford basic human rights. I want my basic human rights. This is where she gets way too centrist for me. But, that's fine, and it's kind of standard, and it's middle of the road, and everybody's all right. And at this point, she's just so basic and so centrist and so kind of old school Republican and new Democrat Bill Clinton kind of stuff. She's losing me at this point. I mean, it's still better than the Orange Menace, and his only economic plan is a billionaire tax cut and tariffs, which are basically taxes. The Democratic argument about tariffs is exactly correct. This is one place where we agree 100%. And I do agree with them on a few things. And their characterization of Trump's tariffs as taxes is basically true. Anytime you slap a tariff on another country, it just becomes a tax on Americans. That's pretty much what it is. It's the equivalent. Okay, so now she's almost, half hour into her speech. She turns to abortion, gets really somber for a while, but it's strong. And she stays there with staying kind of somber on guns and the danger of gay rights being taken away by the Orange Menace and the danger of what will happen to the climate, unless she's elected, and voting rights. By the way, guns, gays, climate, and voting rights all happen in literally one sentence. So, I guess you got to get through a lot of stuff. Talks a little bit about the border bill that we've talked about, the one that Trump sabotaged. And then she finally gets into national security and military and NATO and Ukraine and It's pretty good. It's pretty strong. She's kind of showing she's tough, all right. She got those chops. You got to show those chops. She had a lot to accomplish. She had a lot of boxes to check off. And she's doing it. And again, I was a little concerned because there were levels of the speech, and I guess, you can't be all high and all low, but I was concerned about the lows, like that she might get stuck there. But she came out of it each time. And by the time she got to Gaza ceasefire, now she's like I said, half hour or more into the speech. Now I'm really listening because how's she going to handle this? And it's pretty standard. I got to tell you, it's pretty Joe Biden standard. Always stand up for Israel, but at the same time, the scale of suffering in Gaza is heartbreaking. She's demanding self-determination and justice for Palestinians, which is very good, and the crowd is loving it. So she really thread that needle pretty well. And she did it in a manner that was very, very tough and strong, just, physically and vocally. She was doing the political theater you need to do. I tell you, I never thought she could deliver a speech like this back when she was running for president in 2020. Not for a minute did I think that was possible. So she did it. She pulled it off. And she got a huge response. USA, USA. And then from there, she just takes off with soaring rhetoric and platitudes, and she ends it strong, and Beyonce's Freedom comes on, and they drop the balloons, and she pulled it off. She pulled it off. Good for her. And the bottom line, like we've been saying all week, you shouldn't have to have the opportunity to afford your human rights. And I won't get back into this. We've been preaching from the same gospel all week, but that's still the bottom line, where I just am not with her and I'm not with the Democrats, and we got to fight to get them off this horrible little centrist merry-go-round they're on. No, you shouldn't have the opportunity to afford your human rights. I want you to have your human rights, and I want you to enjoy them as a birthright. So we got to stay with that. And then the bottom line, like I alluded to earlier, fellow lefties, I just implore you to join the coalition, man. Take a win. This is a win. It's a small win. The fight isn't over by a long shot, but generally speaking, I'm with Adam Kinzinger, who's making the same arguments from his other side. But they're the same arguments. These centrist corporate Democrats, for all of our criticisms, and I've got plenty, believe me, they are basically good people with good hearts trying to do the right thing. And if they can keep the Orange Menace and the MAGA maniacs out of office, out of power, then we got to join them. We have to join the coalition. So just, take the win. Believe me, I understand the downsides of this. I understand the contradictions. Yes, they're a corporate party. I completely concede that. And we just can't have that. We can't in the long run. But for the moment, you got to take a win. You just got to take a win, and you got to join me and Adam Kinzinger. From both sides of the spectrum here. And we got to get together to make sure the Orange Menace never gets anywhere near the Oval Office again. Okay. Is that it? Let's call it a day. I'm tired. I'm tired after this. I'm going to take a few days off. All right, this is Charles Purcell. You've been listening to The Log and our Democratic National Convention wrap up each of these nights. Go to the website, charlespurcell.com, for this and all the other podcasts. Or your favorite platform, of course. Contact me, charlespurcell@gmail.com. Follow on Facebook. Peter Donalds wrote the theme song. There you go. All right, I love you. See ya.